brothers and sisters, and welcome to the first Cornerstones video. Hopefully these will be able to edify you and to bring you to a deeper understanding of what we teach at the Lutheran Brethren Church. This video is maybe a little bit different because as we're kind of considering membership, maybe that's why you're taking the class, or maybe not, maybe you're just trying to understand, but why would you want to become a member? Because many people in our society might push back against that, have an attitude of kind of, well, I'm my boss and I don't need anyone else telling me what to do, and I know where the door is and I can leave whenever I want, and that's kind of a prevailing attitude in our society. I think especially maybe with an earlier generation, though I know in many ways my generation too has lots of quirks like that too, but I think this is a mindset that is pretty normal in sort of North America, that we don't want to have these strong connections that require us to have to be united in fellowship. But really, as Christians, we're not really called to be Christians in sort of isolation. We're called to be joined into this body as Christians, and so we'll talk a bit more about that. But first is some caveats, right? When we're talking about Christian membership, does this have anything to do with salvation? And we want to say absolutely not. Christian membership in the Church of the Rock of Ages has no pertinence to your salvation per se, right? You can be a member and be unsaved. You can be not a member and be totally saved. Indeed, as you know, at Rock of Ages, we have many people who are functioning in our church and working in our church and doing great things in our church who are not members. So this is not a question about salvation per se, and yet we don't always want to just talk about what the bare minimum of salvation, right? That is an important topic, like what gets you into a right relationship with Christ, and that is only faith in Him and His promises, right? But there's also other questions that are important, and how do we grow and live out this Christian life? The second question is our method of doing membership, the be all and end all. No, we believe that the things that make a church are fundamentally the proclamation of the gospel and the proper administration of the sacraments, all done through an ordered ministry. And so we talk about other things that can be really important that come alongside that and help and engage things. These are not absolutes, and there's different ways to go about this. So some churches do things differently, and we're not say that this way is the absolute right and this way is the absolute wrong, and we can debate those things as it goes. But this is the way that we're doing it here. This is what we believe, and we have some pretty strong reasons why we like to have a membership kind of highly valued in our churches compared to maybe ELCIC churches where people kind of automatically become members. Here we want a confessing, believing membership, as you get to kind of take part in leading the church as a congregational church. So where and why membership? Well, to start with that, we have to kind of see what the importance of the local church is to the Christian life, because indeed we believe that all people are saved, are part of the universal kind of invisible church. Everyone who is in a faithful relationship, a believing relationship with Christ, is part of His body. And yet that doesn't mean that the local church has no place, or that the visible church has no place. No, far from it. Indeed, if you look through the scriptures, it's actually the visible church that's talked about a lot more in in many ways. The visible church comes up a lot, and it is quite important. And so everywhere we see Christians, there is this call upon them to gather together and to establish an ordered ministry with someone or people, to proclaim the word, to teach the word, to teach doctrine, to teach the understanding of the Christian faith, and to grow together, that they are to establish a public ministry and a visible ministry of the church in teaching and doctrine and giving of the sacraments. And indeed, part of that is also gathering, right, to receive that sacrament, to receive communion, to have baptism performed, and so on and so forth, right? And then finally, another thing is that there's sort of a sense in which the church does have boundaries and is kind of a numbered amount, and the way you figure that out is different, but there's an idea of a flock or a congregation that is sort of understood and known about, and so there's this order to it, and people who are accountable towards the shepherds, and the shepherds who are responsible for their sheep. And so there needs to be sort of kind of an understanding of what this is, and especially as it relates to church discipline and the admonishing of people who are falling astray and walking away from the Lord. And this is not ever to hurt them or to push them away, but it's always to draw them to Christ. When we see someone walking in a very dangerous way, we want to call them out of that. And part of this is an important ministry of the church, to know who we deal with, because we deal with non-believers differently than believers. And so we want to have some way in which we're kind of understanding where our boundaries are. Kind of, not to say who's in and who's out. Not that we want more and more people in, but we do want to have some sort of boundaries there that are recognizable. Now, this comes to the kind of really important crux of the matter, right? Is this kind of elder and congregation relationship, and the relationship that we have. And I was just going to read from Hebrews here, just about this one verse that kind of speaks to this. Obey those who rule over you, and be submissive, for they watch for your souls, as those who must give an account. Let them do so with joy and not with grief, for that would be unprofitable for you. Now, see, this is a really interesting dynamic. That's from Hebrews 13, verse 17. Now, that's really interesting, right? Again, even in the way that's framed, it's framed as a benefit for you, to be accountable, to submit yourselves unto the church leadership. And you understand that, yes, these elders, these shepherds are ruling over you in such a way that they are accountable for your souls before God, right? That this is a weighty matter, indeed almost a scary matter, and that you want to give them joy in doing this and make it easy for them, so that this can be done well. And not for their sake, but for your sake, so that you can be admonished properly, so that you can be cared for properly. And that kind of serves as the central hub of this. So finally, when we talk about church membership, even though we're not talking about ultimate salvation or things like that, we understand that this is sort of committing to this church. So as you've maybe been part of this church body, we now call you to think about actually becoming a member of this family, committing to it, submitting yourselves unto the church and saying, hey, this is my church. I love this place and I want to be part of this, submit myself to the mission. I'm part of this thing. I want to be beholden to the elders in a more close way. Not that we don't care for the sheep that are not parishioners, right? But yeah, I want to be really part of this. And so that's kind of our goal here.